What if engineering managers had their own Christmas? Now we have some bright shinies and some jingles.
We're not doing ourselves any favors. Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
That is an exotic one.
Everything gets delivered on time, and Santa is able to deliver presents, and
We're just going full
everything is out
fantasy.
there.
See what you think. What if engineering managers had their own Christmas? What would it be called? Perhaps EM's? I'm joined here by Carl, our solution architect here at Sleuth.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
What if you took different Christmas traditions and adapted them to EM's? Of course, EM being abbreviation for engineering manager, because it's really hard to say engineering manager must. It's just too long. So EM's is what we're going with. All right.
EM's is difficult too, by the way.
It is.
We're not doing ourselves any favors.
Well, I thought like there's Eng-miss, maybe, but then the whole point is I wanted it to be about engineering managers, not about the devs or not about the whatever. And then there's like EM's, but the EM, anyways, whatever. The point is, that's what we're doing is what if an engineering manager had their own Christmas? And sorry for all the bells. It's going to continue to ring. Oh, that reminds me. I was going to turn them on. Where's the freaking button? We won't do this one because that'll drive the epileptic shock warning in the video. There we go. Now we have some bright shinies and some jingles. Okay, question number one. What gets an engineering manager on the naughty list? So Santa historically has good list and a naughty list? Is it good list and naughty list?
I think so, right?
Yeah. So if you're on the good list, you get presents. If you're naughty list, you get coal. What would an engineering manager do throughout the year that would get him on the naughty list?
See, I had a very fun one right around the holidays, which is sending a happy holidays message through your incident management tool because people are ignoring your Slack messages.
Okay, so you're wanting to send a message to people, so you send it through an incident management tool, and it's just a happy holidays.
Exactly. It goes out to the on-call rotation, and people won't ignore that message.
And in a passive-aggressive, like, why aren't you ever paying attention to this?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
That is an exotic one. I mean, I had on my list, like, make people work overtime or whatever, but damn, using the on-call. How about this? Using on-call for anything other than emergencies. Because I would also put in that category using an on-call list and having every log error sent to it or every whatever where you just flood it. Like, I would think that would put them on the naughty list.
Oh, yeah.
When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about like one of my favorite cartoons at the time is A Christmas Carol, the Disney version, because I grew up as a Disney kid. And you have the Scrooge McDuck, and Scrooge McDuck, the big thing that he does against this person is he barely lets him take time off. So I thought, like in true tradition lore, it should be the working an employee too much, asking him to come in overtime, asking her to come in on weekends, always saying, why aren't you here? And if I want to be controversial, I'll even saying you have to be in the office. You can't even be working remotely anywhere. You have to be right there. I feel like that traditionally is a good coal in the stockings thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably something that actually happens, right? As opposed to maybe using this because you're ignoring my Slack messages. But absolutely, right? I think that would get them right on the naughty list.
Yep. Yeah, because you could see all kinds of those kind of ones where the engineering manager wants attention or does things to get him to pay attention or answer my question, or those that come by every day and says, how are you going? How's the status? What's the status? What's the status? Also pretty annoying. All right, so we could go through a lot of these, but we have other questions because there's other things. When you want to explore the concept of an engineering manager's Christmas, there is a lot more to be taken into consideration. For example, who would Santa Claus be?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I think that in some organizations, the Scrum Master would be Santa Claus.
Okay. Say more about that.
Well, I'm thinking about the presents can be, kind of analogous to delivering features, functionality, taking care of issues, right? So if you then have somebody like Santa that's helping you not only manage, the things are coming in, the presents that are being made, which, there's a lot of logistics around that throughout the year, but then also making sure that it gets delivered to all the right people, and, you're getting everything taken care of on time by Christmas.
Okay.
And maybe the Scrum Master ends up being, of course, you have to actually use Scrum for that to work out, right? But there are a lot of organizations where you have the Scrum Master. So I think maybe Santa would be the Scrum Master.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. My answer was I was going to go more literal and thinking when an engineering manager wants presents, which I know is one of our further questions, who would give them to him? And I think the obvious literal answer is like the vice president of engineering or the CTO or something like that. That's the person that gets him that real big present of a raise or, a bonus or, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I was thinking, I pictured Santa Claus as wearing a suit, maybe a female wearing a suit. I guess, how else would you picture an engineering manager of the vice president? Is there any other visual cues other than suits? And even then, it's probably not suits anymore. It's probably like a Patagonia vest or something.
Yeah, right. Now, I think, nowadays it's not necessarily a particular look, I don't think.
Sure, but let's take the Santa Claus thing. So Santa Claus has this big red coat with the white fur. What would be an equivalent, which was based on what people would kind of wear back then, but obviously blown out. So would it be like a big red Patagonia vest with white fur lining, maybe?
Oh, that could be one. Another one, a little bit less, or I should say a little bit more subtle, is just a red hoodie with a white zipper in the middle, right? And then white lining when you put the hoodie up.
Yes, kind of a Mark Zuckerberg style, always the same hoodie thing. Okay, okay, yeah, I could see that. All right, so we have a VP of engineering with a white hoodie. Red and white hoodie is our Santa Claus. All right, so one of the big parts of Christmas is the decorations, the lights and the sounds and the flashings, the tinsel, although you can't use tinsel now because it's bad for the environment. But that idea, the Christmas ornaments, the elf on the shelf, some people do. What would a decoration process look like for an engineering manager's Christmas?
Ooh, well, I think that it starts in January of that year, where you sit together and you take the engineering manager, you take the designer, and you take a project manager, and you plan this year's Christmas. This involves a lot of understanding, first of all, what decorations did people like last year. You're also, decorating your house. So the product manager goes and stands in front of the house and asks people that walk by, what did you like about the decorations last year? What can we improve upon, right? Doing that kind of continuous feedback loop, right, as they go along. And then they bring in all the teams, throughout the years and make sure that they, throughout the year, and they deliver right on time. They have milestones, by June and July, everything kind of should be finalized in terms of designs and making sure that we're acquiring all the right, lights and like everything, right? We need to source all this, right? And we need to have that ready. And we probably start building it in August, right? And all the way into December until we finally turn on the lights. I don't know if we want to do it after, in the U.S., right, it's usually after Thanksgiving, right, that people start decorating. So maybe, that last week in November, first week in December, things come up, and then bug fixing all the way throughout December until, finally Christmas.
You have a very idealized idea of the process, because I feel like in reality, it's more like you started 3 days before and realized, oh, crap, we needed to go to the store. And so there's like massive runs to the store at the last second. And then just when you get a bunch of lights, green lights, let's say, the stakeholders come in and said, oh, I wanted blue lights. Why wouldn't you do that? And so then you have to go throw all that stuff away and you have to get it. So I feel like it's a lot more chaotic, a lot more like last minute rushes to Target or Walmart or your equivalent grocery store to grab stuff. But I like your idea that people would be that disciplined to structure it and plan it out.
Oh, well, I think it's, best laid plans, right? And then we'll see what actually happens, right? This is all in a fun universe where everything gets delivered on time and Santa is able to deliver presents. And
we're just going full fantasy at this point.
Yeah, full fantasy, exactly. If I was a little bit more, I guess, realistic, maybe Christmas, some presents will be coming in on the 26th, 27th, 28th, coming in January is when we put up some of the last lights as a part of this process, right?
Oh, yeah, no, that's exactly right. So like we used used to do that all the time. Like when I worked at Atlassian, we would have some big thing that we were delivering, at least especially in the early to mid days, some big thing we were delivering, and it was going to go out by Atlassian Summit, which was their big conference. And then as it got closer, it goes, well, maybe it won't be completely done. Maybe it'll be a beta. And then, okay, fine, it's going to be a beta. And then it gets scaled down to an alpha. And usually by the end, it's just like some slides in PowerPoint, and we just call it a day. And be like, no, this is totally almost there. And we're like, dude, we barely started it. But he's like, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe, the Figma designs come out, December 1st or something like that, right? And then it's just a scramble to make sure you get everything done in the next 24 days.
Yeah. Or you get like those little lights, and you just shine the picture of lights all over your house because you haven't gone to actually get the lights and all that. So it's just like, here's the slide of what the lights will look like maybe someday. And then you're about ready, in March. And at that point, it's too late. And then the cycle repeats the next year.
Yeah. Or to your point, right, that little box, you decide, you know what, rather than build our own, we're just going to go in and buy a solution that does it for us. And you go up, buy that box, put it in front of the house, and it lights up the house. And you're like, that's good enough.
Yes. Or you can actually buy, I don't know if you looked into this, but there is a thing like Christmas decorations, light decorations. You can spend $5,000, $10,000 having someone come and decorate your whole house. You don't have to deal with it. They put it up, they take it down. It's computerized, it's set to sound, all this stuff. Like, it's expensive. It's more expensive than painting the damn thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least you get quality then, right? If you're kind of competing in the neighborhood in terms of who has the best decorations, my little off-the-shelf thing, that's the 20, well, actually, I don't know how much it costs, but, let's say under $100 worth of things you buy, right? But what you're chatting about, that's, the really, like, we're going all out. This is going to be the house to celebrate Christmas in.
Ooh, yes. Oh, there's a decoration, the competitive aspect. I feel like, and I know the whole point of this exercise is take an analogy and push it way too far and then push it a little bit farther than that. But the whole competitive, like, you almost see an analogy to wanting to be on those projects that are seen by the company is going forward. I heard about that a lot at Google, where if you get on the right project, then you get the promotion. If you get on the wrong project, then you're kind of screwed. Like, anyways, so many ways you could go with that. But let's go back to the presents concept. So we have an engineering manager's Christmas. There are stockings. We talked a little bit about what gets on the good list and the naughty list, but what kind of things would be in those stockings? So like, for example, in my family, stockings tend to be candy, gum, or possibly little tiny presents. So what would be in an engineering manager's stocking?
I think that, at least for me, if I was in this position, coffee beans, or ground coffee already, right? Or tea if you prefer that. Some sort of way to get caffeine in the system. I think that's critical. So that will probably be one of the stocking stuffers on my list.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so you went literal this time. I'm going to go more general, and I'm thinking like a small task that wasn't really scheduled but made developers' life easier, so they get to feel like more of a hero. So it's nothing big, but let's say a little automation in CI, or sharding a CI thing that usually take 10 minutes, now it takes 2. Like, it just makes the engineering manager happier because now their devs are happier and they feel like there's a lot more excitement around their project. And it's nothing that was scheduled. You wouldn't have, maybe in a perfect team, you do schedule those kind of things, but, maybe you didn't. But little tiny improvements. Maybe a little feature. Ooh, how about this? A little feature that's always been bugging the project manager. Let's say you're working at a company like Sleuth, which produces a tool to help engineering managers look at what's happening and align business and engineering. What if there was a little thing that me, as I use it every day, and my stocking would be a fix to that? Like, just a little, like, why do I have to click twice? Why can't I click once? Or why is this 5 pixels off if it's one of those type of people? Just a little tiny thing, not scheduled. And someone in the engineering team said, you know what? I'm just going to fix that for you. Boom, 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 in the stocking.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice present, right? We all love that when it is something that truly has been bugging us, and we know it might just be us. Maybe we're the only ones that really care about it, but we notice it, we use it every day, and it gets frustrating, and then magically it's just taken care of. Ooh, that is a nice little present.
Or I'll give you one more. What if it was something that the engineering manager did and shipped? Like, that could sometimes be a present, because the engineering manager might just be all on meetings all day, but they used to code. They used to be more of an individual contributor. and they really want to get back to that. And so you give them like 4 hours and say, hey, go ahead and fix that thing. And they do it, and it goes all the way through the testing pipeline, the product design group, and then it gets all the way out. And that would be a nice little win.
Yeah. Or taking that, a slightly different angle, delivering a feature on behalf of the team, right? And kind of giving that to everybody stocking in that point, right? You've taken care of that backlog item that's been sitting there for forever. You found that time, you fixed it, shipped it out, and now everybody gets to enjoy a little bit of extra time because you managed to take care of that dreaded item.
Now, that's a good one, because let's segue into the next question. What will be under an engineering manager's tree? And I think you just raised a really good point, which is at Christmas, you don't just get presents. At least in my house, you always have to give presents as well. You have to give at least one to every family member, and they give you one to you. And then, of course, the parents spend way too much and fill in the rest. But what would be under the tree at an engineering manager's Christmas?
Ooh, yeah. So I thought about this, and I think before Christmas, the engineer manager sends out a developer sentiment survey to get an understanding of what they think, the team is doing well,
and what
is doing not so well. Yeah, exactly. The Christmas list, right?
Yes.
And then a rating of, how much do they want that thing, right? Or if we're taking the analogy with the Christmas list, like here's, I want 3 out of 5, here, or 5 out of 5 for this one item. And as a part of that, you either deliver some of that function, whatever it might be, right? Whether it's a feature, whether it's improving the process right in time for the holidays, or you come up with a prioritized list and share that and say, these are the things we're going to focus on come January, and make sure that, it's taken care of throughout the rest of the year, but you're actioning that list and handing that out to your team.
One thing that my family would do is, especially when the kids are young, they don't have a lot of money and they don't know what to do. And so you could do the usual, which is you buy something for your partner, and then it's from the kid, or, something like that. There's another thing that you could do, which actually sometimes turns out to be even better. I don't know if you ever did this, but we would put take a little piece of paper and write, this is good. This ticket is good for 1 vacuuming of the house, or 1 doing the dishes, or 1 massage, or whatever. And then maybe make a little tiny booklet of those and give that to them. And so it's a free gift, but if you think about the value that it's providing, it would be a ton.
Yeah.
So you could almost see, like, if you were going to do that, what would people get for the engineering manager? I could see like 2 weeks of unasked for daily status reports. So the engineering manager knows what the dev is doing without having to go bug her and say, hey, why haven't you done this? Why don't you tell me? Why don't you fill this out? Like, they just proactively do it. Maybe it's a standard report, end of day action report, whatever. I feel like that would be a really good one, because you're trying to think of, like, what are pain points of engineering managers? One of them is, I hate bugging people, but I need to know the answer. Maybe one project where the end date is always up to date, and you don't need to go and bug them and say, hey, it looks like you have 20 tasks in the task log and you're supposed to be done tomorrow. That doesn't seem possible. Like, it was done. What would be another example of that?
Ooh,
like a behavior type thing, not a thing, but a behavior type thing.
Yeah. So maybe if we're doing, leaning on Scrum again, right? Thinking of that mindset, if we were also working in sprints, maybe a couple of sprints that have, only planned items, and they're, without them being pushed out to the next sprint. So everything is perfectly planned and delivered within, X number of sprints.
Okay, you could go to that and say that sprint would have estimates that at least 2 people worked on, so you have maybe some level of confidence that they're done, although, of course, that raises the question, can you even estimate things, whatever. But putting that aside, this is fantasy land.
Yeah.
So the devs would say, we'll have a sprint, we'll sit ahead of time, we'll put things in it, we'll estimate it, and we'll deliver all of that. A perfect sprint, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a fantasy land. I know this is hard, right? Like, if we starting with step 1, estimating that to make sure that you can, deliver 100% of what you need to do in that sprint, and not, of course, lowball it. If we could do that all the time, I think,
Sure.
It's like, well, why aren't we doing that every single sprint?
Yes.
But at least start off the year with a couple of good sprints like that. I think that'd be a nice thing under the tree.
Yeah. So, okay, let's finish with this thing under the tree. In my household, we have one tradition usually, which is there's one last present. So we always have the tree and all the presents have been opened. And then we go, oh, wasn't it a great Christmas? We pretend that it's completely over. And then me or the wife goes, oh, you know what? I think there might be one more thing. Hold on. And then we bring out a bicycle, or we bring out a chair or a computer monitor, or some kind of expensive-ish thing that it's like with a present. What would be the one big present that an engineering manager could get?
Ooh. Yeah, that is interesting. I went with the direction of thinking, again, of what could the team get, and I guess ultimately that can help the engineering manager. But I think, we're recording this in 2024, so I think a big thing could be, a subscription to a coding, AI assistant, right? Like Copilot or something like that, for the entire team, right? Since that can help raise the productivity of the team, and be able to help them with all the things that they need to deliver. And that is, a more expensive thing depending on the size of the team.
Okay, I'll do one that you won't even at all see coming. You have a team of people. You need to know what they're working on. You need to be tracking their metrics. You need to see where they're spending their time. The clear answer there is that engineering manager needs sleuth, because sleuth will give them reviews to be able to see where time is being spent, to be able to look at their DORA metrics, see where there's inefficiencies, do developer surveys, aggregate that up, be able to report to the top, even all the way to the board. I feel like that is the ultimate big gift for an engineering manager. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Oh, I think so. And, the best part about that is our answers, they can work together. So why not both?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, because AI, there's a lot of AI in Sleuth to help you analyze all the data and find what's important.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're also paying for this video, so I feel like we need to plug that real quick. So that's a big gift. You take away nothing else, you need to get your engineering manager Sleuth. That is our main takeaway. All right. So that's the things that go under the tree. Now, there is in Christmas tradition, there's a Grinch, someone who wants to take presents out of the tree, who wants to take them all for himself because he doesn't like the happiness of Christmas. Who would the Grinch be in an engineering manager's Christmas?
Ooh, yeah. So I have two answers for this. One is a concept and one is more real. So I thought about this, and I think that the personification of scope creep would be the Grinch.
Ooh, okay. Now we're getting extra abstract.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why that hit me, but as soon as I read that question, I was like, oh, you know what?
Scope creep as the Grinch.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah, because they're taking away all the joy. It's constantly like,
right.
Ooh, we have this neat feature that we wanted to work on, and then scope creep comes in and just keeps on adding to it, and it eventually becomes a slog, and it's nothing of what you originally thought it was going to be, and it's not fun to work on anymore. And that just kind of ruins things for everybody.
You know what? That is so freaking true. When I think about the projects at different places that I've worked, that it's just been the worst. It's not usually the worst because there's a really toxic person, or even a really toxic VP or a salesperson or a marketing person that's pushing the team. It's when the project just never freaking ends and it just keeps going. And then it becomes like, this is taking so long. And we had this happen in Jira in the early days before it went to the cloud, is that it was taking so long. So therefore we need to do this extra feature because we can't wait another 4 months for it to go out. And so the fact that it's long becomes justification for making it longer, and it just death spirals down.
Oh yeah, it can be a never-ending cycle. Sometimes you're lucky and somebody pulls a cord and says, "Hey, listen, we see what's going on here," but usually that's not the case in my experience, at least. It just kind of continues forever and forever. We talked about this before. A Grinch has a redemption arc, though, where the Grinch is taking everybody's presents, but that eventually realizes the true meaning of Christmas. What would it be to bring how would the Grinch of the personification of scope creep, how would that entity go through a redemption arc, learn its lesson, and come back and understand the true meaning of engineering manager Christmas? Well, I think in this case, it would understand that it is the scope, right? It is what sets the things that engineering needs to do. And it would do some self-reflection and realize, okay, I need to lay this out and have, even though I am creeping, I'm constantly adding things that the engineering team needs to do. What if it was just split out from the beginning? So the next time scope creep visits a house, it comes in with a clear set of requirements. It says, this is what we'll have for milestone 1. And then look at all these additional milestones that I've already kind of scoped out. So rather than just kind of creep up, everything's laid out in a nice kind of bite-sized fashion. And you can pick and choose milestone 1, let's do this now. And then in the future, we can do milestone 2 when we have the time.
Okay. I also like the idea of the agile methodology. And when I say agile, I mean little a, like as in the original manifesto, saying instead of trying to plan out 2 years in advance with these big waterfall processes, why not just take a priority list of things and you do a week's worth of work or a period of time's worth of work and you look back and say, what do we want to do next time? And you just iterate that way. Then they go forever in a sense, but you're delivering things throughout the whole time. So you never feel like it's just the worst.
Yeah. And you're also, saving some time to be able to gather feedback along the way, right? And be able to adjust to that. So you're not just constantly chasing the next thing that got added to the pile just by the nature of scope creep itself. And instead you're listening to folks that you're handing out presents to and getting an understanding of what did they like, what did they not like, and kind of tweak that throughout the year.
So I think we are probably one of the very few podcasts, whatever, webinars, I don't know what the hell you call this video, where we have decided organically that agile is the answer. It is not the problem, it is not dead, and it's not killing things, but actually the answer. So that's fun. It's a fun return to tradition, which is 'tis the season for that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So with that in mind, so I've shared a lot of like little traditions that my family has, and then how that would work in an engineering manager's Christmas. What are some traditions your family has and then how would you adopt them to an engineering manager's Christmas?
Oh, yeah. So I'm originally from Sweden, and something that Swedes do a little bit different, and I think there are other parts of the world that does this as well, is that first we celebrate Christmas on the 24th, so on Christmas Eve, and rather than waking up to presents, Santa actually shows up to our house and delivers the presents for us. So you get to meet Santa every single year, and Santa comes in with a big sack of presents and hands out some gifts from the sack that he brought in, as well as from under the tree. But the fun thing is usually you need to get somebody to dress up as Santa, right? Otherwise, how does Santa show up to your house? And the running kind of gag is that, your dad always needs to run out for milk. Oh no, you ran out of milk, and that's the most critical thing of Christmas. So, your dad steps out of the house to go buy milk, even though all the stores are closed, and then Santa comes. And then Santa leaves, and then your dad comes back in with milk, usually, if you planned ahead and are smart about it. Yeah. And then, say, oh, no, I missed Santa. Oh, no. So there's a whole thing. And, even to this day, it's still within my family. We always fake going out for milk, whomever is the one dressing up as Santa. And we always come back with the thing of milk, to kind of show that off. So that's the tradition I was thinking of. And in this case, who would be dressing up as Santa? I think that, you kind of already mentioned this, but I was thinking the CTO would be a really good person to kind of run out, grab some milk, come back dressed up as Santa and be able to hand out presents to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That makes sense. I mean, I have so many questions about that tradition, but I guess if you think about any Christmas tradition, you have a lot of questions about it not, mathematically working, but I like that. So the different people take turns and go out and get the presents.
Yeah. And, if you're lucky, and I had this growing up, one of the neighbors might have some more adult children that can dress up as Santa, and then, your entire family, is there. But in scenarios where you're not that lucky, the neighbors also have small children, then usually it is, a grown up, right? And it's usually, at least when I was growing up, right, usually the dad that runs out and dresses up.
I like that, the idea of a village and being involved in the Christmas tradition. So in an engineering manager's Christmas, it might usually be the CTO, but it also could be potentially the VP of sales, or it could be the VP of marketing, or it could be, anybody, because they would have good things. You could see HR coming and handing out bonuses and raises. That would be lovely. You could
Yeah.
see sales coming out and sharing a bunch of successes, and that would be kind of like giving presents to everyone, getting them all motivated for how much money we're able to make because and value we're able to deliver because of all the work that everyone's doing, or marketing because of these cool features. Look, we made an animated video that really shows it off, and we got some famous actor to work on it or whatever, and that would be pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, and especially if your fiscal quarter ends at the end of the year, right? If you're aligned with calendars, to your point, sales coming with a couple of those really big deals towards the end of the year and a quarter, delivering that for Christmas, it's pretty timely. Usually, it's not a lot of activity between December 24th, through New Year's. So if you can kind of squeak in a couple of those deals right before then and share that with the organization, that's like handing out some Christmas presents to everybody.
Yeah. I like that. I like the idea that it's not just Christmas and engineering managers Christmas. Wouldn't it just be about them and the developers, or even about the VP of engineering or CTO and the developers? It would really be a whole company thing. Presents giving left and right, because engineering could give something to the salesperson that's been asking for this one feature to land this one deal that maybe isn't big, but it's that salesperson's first deal, and so they want to land it. Whatever. You could see all this. And really, if you think about it, that is one of the things. Obviously I won't get into many of them, but that's one of the things of the point of Christmas, is that people coming together, giving and sharing back and forth to create a communal sense of belonging and of selflessness. And I think that would fit very well in an engineering manager's Christmas.
Yeah, I think so too. I like that.
Nice. So before we go, on Christmas Eve, there is usually a kind of a tradition where you read a story before bed. And it might be the night before Christmas is usually the one. So it's the night before Christmas. It might be another story. What story would an engineering manager be read for an engineering manager's Christmas on Christmas Eve?
See, I'm going to continue to stick with my theme of agile. It's constantly throughout this.
We're starting an agile consultancy company on the side, by the way. So this is really just a pitch for that.
And it really must have been where my headspace was at, as we were, prepping a little bit for this video. I was thinking about, what would I answer to that? For some reason, I just got stuck on this. But I think, taking the book, The Polar Express, and making it the Agile Express. So, in this case, right, a group of software engineers, they board a magical train called the Agile Express, and it takes them on a journey to learn the principles of agile development.
Wow. All right. I was not expecting it. That's great, though. That's so good. Now I want to see like the children's version of it. I know, like we talked about maybe using AI to like come up with some visualizations, but that one just screams for visualization. I want to see like a little children's book. There's a guy I used to work with on HipChat who now writes children's books. I should reach out to him and say, you should do an Agile Polar Express adoption.
Yeah. Hey, I'm giving that out for free. That.
Nice. In the spirit of giving, in the Christmas spirit of giving. That's lovely. Yeah, because one of my favorite things when we would live in different places or whatever is the wife would always get a book of the night before Christmas, but for that area. So, for example, we lived in Hawaii. We had a children's book that was the night before Christmas, but Santa Claus was this, overweight, white-bearded guy on a surfboard, with a lei around, and whatever. And then Australia had one as well, where it's all filled with a bunch of words you have to look up in a dictionary because what is chuck? You're chuck. Like, you're just like, what does it mean? Australia has a lot of words. But it was just kind of this fun of taking this thing and adapting it. So I went one step further, actually. And by the way, in full disclosure, this is my wife's idea. Having been the one that collects these books, she said, what you should do for Engineering Managers Christmas is you should adapt the night before Christmas, a story, into an Engineering Managers Christmas story. And so that's what I've done, and see what you think. 'Twas the Night Before Eamsmas by Gep Tack. 'Twas the night before Eamsmas, and all through the team, the code base was breaking. It felt like a dream. PR stacked like snowdrifts, morale running thin. Deadlines loomed closer. We couldn't begin. The devs were exhausted, their keyboards worn bare, with visions of metrics brought groans, not flair. And I, as the EM in a dangerous plight, sought answers to save us this long winter's night. When out by the Kanban there rode such a clatter, I sprang from my desk to see what was the matter. Away to the dashboard I flew in a flash, pulled up the velocity. Oh no, it had crashed. The moon on the sprint showed the chaos below. Features undone, our cycle time slow. When what did my weary eyes should appear? But our VP of engineering in a sleigh full of cheer. With wisdom and swagger, so savvy and smooth, I knew in a moment it had to be Sleuth. On metrics, on surveys, on team reviews too, with automations we'll fix what ails you. To the backlog of blockers, to each technical debt, we'll measure, align, and rise with no sweat. We'll break down the silos, we'll find where you've stalled. Dash away, Sleuth sees it all. As commits before a deployment take flight, Sleuth tracked our Dora, made insights ignite. So into our process the VP did steer, with a bag full of clarity and plans crystal clear. Then, in a twinkling, I felt the release, our deployment frequency bringing us peace. The burnout abated, the chaos controlled. With Sleuth, our alignment was pure engineering gold. The VP stood tall with a smile that gleamed. The key to success, a well-oiled team. With Sleuth as your compass, your North Star in sight, engineering a business aligned just right. And I heard her exclaim as she flew out of view, happy EM's mess to all, and to all your teams, Sleuth too.